Hello everyone, how are you doing? I hope everyone is doing good. So welcome to another video of the chapter Reproduction in Humans. I'll be keeping my camera off because of network issues, so I will not be able to record because it's raining heavily over here. Okay, so let's begin. In the previous videos, we had covered spermatogenesis and the structure of the sperm and how the regulation of spermatogenesis takes place with respect to the hormones that are involved in it. Now, in this video, we are going to do the female part of it. That is, we are going to discuss oogenesis, how the female gamete, that is, how the eggs are formed in the ovaries. So that we are going to see in detail the structure of the oocyte, then how this oocyte or the egg develops into a mature Graafian follicle. So the developmental stages of ovarian follicle we are going to see, and the final ready egg, how it develops. So it is something known as Graafian follicle, into which the secondary oocyte it develops. So then that egg is ready to be fertilized. So all these stages we are going to see in detail in this video. So let's begin oogenesis. So let's just first understand a basic definition or basic, understanding of what is oogenesis. Okay, so basically, like spermatogenesis, the formation of the sperms in the testes is spermatogenesis. We saw the steps. Okay, if you have still not checked out the video, please go and check out that video so that it becomes easier to understand oogenesis. Okay, more or less the same pattern is there, that is mitotic and meiotic division will happen. Okay, also I suggested you in the previous video to go through mitotic and meiotic divisions also from your school textbook or from your 11th standard textbook. It will give you a better understanding of the topic of spermatogenesis and oogenesis, because cell division is only involved over here. Okay, so the basic understanding of oogenesis is what? The primary egg, okay, we call it as the primary oocyte. Yes, we are starting from here. There is a long story behind this also. From where does this primary oocyte comes into picture? We are going to see that in the next slide in detail. So right now we are just beginning with the basic primary step, primary egg, which will be deployed in nature. Which will be what? Deployed in nature. It will undergo meiosis. Okay, because gametes are formed, gametes are getting formed over here. Oogenesis is what? Formation of the female gamete. Yes, formation of the female gamete. So meiotic division will take place. So this is, imagine this as the mother cell. Okay, the mother cell, female gamete mother cell. This will undergo meiotic division to produce haploid egg cells, to produce haploid egg cells. Now, do you see the chromosome state over here? From 2n, after meiotic division, it is now N. Okay, and then we all know that meiotic one is reductional division, and whereas then meiosis is divided into two parts. First is reductional, second part consists of the equational division. So you get 4 haploid daughter cells, that is 4 haploid egg cells. Okay, now in case of female gametogenesis, that is oogenesis, there is a different phenomena which will happen at the second meiotic division. It's not like the male one, wherein uh, the the mother cell, okay, will divide and it will give rise to 4 sperm cells. Yes, haploid, haploid, haploid. This is the case in spermatogenesis, but in female, you will not see 4 eggs of N formed. You will see only 1 egg form, and rest 3 are known as polar bodies. Okay, these are known as something known as polar bodies. What are they? We will, as and when we move forward, and what happens to this polar body, where do they go? Do they develop into a egg? That all we are going to discover in this video. Okay, so right now just get an idea that the female mother cell, egg cell, we will begin with naming as primary oocyte, which is diploid in condition. It will undergo meiotic division 1, meiotic division 2 to produce haploid female gamete. So one difference is that we need to keep in mind that the all 4 haploid female gametes will not be the egg, only one will be the egg, rest all of them will be polar bodies. Okay. Okay. And now then this egg, which is called as secondary oocyte, which is having half the number of the chromosome, will be ready to be fertilized by a sperm. Okay, so after every division, you will see one secondary oocyte and then polar body formed like that. So similarly, there will be polar bodies formed and only one egg cell, which will further mature, develop, and then this will be ready to be fertilized by the egg. So then egg is also having n number of chromosome, that is half the number of chromosome. Secondary oocyte is also having half the number of chromosome. The egg, both the nucleus fuse and then the zygote will result. This will happen when fertilization will take place. Okay, so the diploid condition will be restored. N plus n, that is 23 plus 23 sets of chromosome, you will get 46. Okay, now let's dive in detail about the oogenesis. So what are the changes that will happen in the ovary and how this developmental stage of the eggs will take place? Okay, don't panic by looking at the diagram. Okay, we are going to take it step by step. We will begin from here. All of you will focus over here only. Forget about all the labelings and all the place. We'll begin with this. So this is, let's consider this one ovary. The female reproductive has how many ovary? 2 ovaries, right? So this is, let's say, one ovary we are considering. And step 1, we begin with something known as primordial follicles. Okay, now these are the cells, we will call them as follicle because these follicles will develop. Inside these follicles the oocyte will develop. So there are 2 words, oocytes, which are the actual egg cell, which will develop only into primary and secondary. Okay, and then there is something known as follicles. So you can imagine follicle as something which will contain the oocyte. So you have to be clear with these 2 words. Follicles will contain the oocyte. At the beginning, they are just follicle. As and when they are maturing, they will have primary oocyte. Then this primary oocyte goes into development of secondary oocyte, obviously after cell division. Okay, so this is the primordial follicle, which the female is already born with. Okay, the female is already born with primordial follicle. Yes, the when the female baby is developing inside the embryo, so all these development is taking place. Okay, this is the germinal epithelium of the ovary. Now this primordial follicle will start developing. Okay, so we are considering a stage wherein after birth, the primordial follicle will now develop into something known as primary follicle. Now you can see there is this red structure, red dot structure, and then you see a layer of cells surrounding it. Okay, so that is what I was trying to make you understand. Oocyte and follicle. Inside is the oocyte. You can see over here now, inside is the egg cell and outside are layer of cells. So you have the medullary region and then you have the cortical region. Okay, outer layer cortex, inner layer medulla. Fine. So there is this cortical region. Okay, so each primordial follicle will have a primary oocyte, which will be, this is primary oocyte, this will be diploid in condition. This will be what? Diploid in condition 2n, and it will be surrounded by a layer of cells. Yes, they will be surrounded by a layer of cells. We are going to come to the cells, different layer of cells. Here, the first cells, you can see over here, these are known as granulosa cell. Okay, what is their function? We will come to it in a short while. Then this primary follicle develops into this. You can see the size also increasing. Then there is fluid also which will come into picture. a fluid will be formed over here. When this further matures into something like this, you can see this picture over here. Okay, this mature follicle. So primary follicle, secondary follicle. Primary follicle having primary oocyte in it. The oocyte, the egg. This is the actual egg cell or the egg. Okay, then this develops into secondary follicle. The egg is already the same egg is there inside. Slowly and steadily it is growing, and now after the secondary follicle, you can see that this is known as Graafian follicle. This whole structure is known as Graafian follicle. In this Graafian follicle, now it has developed into this fluid filled cavity. This is known as antrum. This is known as antrum. This is the egg, and surrounding the egg you will see layers of cells. One layer of cell is zona pellucida. Okay, zona pellucida. Fine. And you have one more two layers, theca externa and interna, that we will see in the next slide. So these are the technical part of it. Just understand what happens in the overview of the oogenesis. We began with step 1, that is the primordial follicle, with which the female is born. Okay, then some of the primordial follicles develops into primary follicle. Okay, they develop into primary follicle. Then this primary follicle is containing what? The egg in it, which is known as the primary oocyte. Okay, then there are layers of cells which will develop, that we are going to see in detail in the short while. Right now, just we are outlining the story. So primary follicle has primary oocyte in it. This further develops into secondary follicle. You can see the size increases, number of cells which are surrounding the egg, that also increases. Secondary follicle develops into this vesicular follicle, or what is the name known as Graafian follicle. Graafian is the name of the person who discovered it. That is why Graafian follicle. And the fluid is filled over here. As you can see, the secondary develops into now this structure of a fluid filled cavity has also been formed now, which is known as the antrum. This is nutrient rich, which will provide nutrition to the growing egg over here. There are multiple layers. We're going to come to it, zona pellucida and all that stuff. Okay, now when this egg is ready, this will be released from the Graafian follicle. You can see over here, when the egg is fully matured, it will be released from this follicle. Okay, so this process of release of egg is known as ovulation. Okay, it is known as ovulation, release of the egg. Now, from where the word ovum comes, when the Graafian follicle is having this mature egg, this mature egg is known as secondary oocyte, or another word is ovum, or another word is ovum. Okay, so interchangeable. Either you call secondary oocyte or ovum. So this ovulation of the ovum, okay, takes place once the secondary oocyte is ready. So it is released by the Graafian follicle. What happens to this cavity? Now the egg has been released. Now this egg can move further and be ready to be fertilized by a sperm if there is any sperm around. This cavity now develops into something known as corpus luteum, and this will it is like a scar, or it is like a body which is now empty cavity stuff, and this is responsible for secreting a hormone known as progesterone. We will see why it secretes progesterone, what is the role of this hormone, okay, in the next video when we will do menstrual cycle. So everything at one go will create a lot of confusion. Right now, let's just summarize. Let's just summarize quickly once again. Primordial follicle, which is already present at birth. Some of the primordial follicle, there are millions of primordial follicles, out of which some will go to form primary follicles. And remember, we discussed that before birth, or sorry, at the puberty, there is a large scale destruction of the primordial follicle, which is known as atresia. So this was covered in the previous video. If you have still not checked it, or if you want to revise, please go through the previous video. Fine. So what happens to millions of these primordial follicles? What are the stages of their destruction? We have discussed in the previous video. Okay, so basically a female is born with around 2 million, 1 million eggs, okay, at birth. And at the time of puberty, only 40,000 roughly remains. Okay, and this destruction is because of the process known as atresia. Okay, so this development that we are talking about, primordial follicle into Graafian follicle, number one, and this is the last step that we are focusing on. So this is the last step. So primordial follicle develops into a mature Graafian follicle, releasing the egg. This will happen at puberty. This will happen at puberty, when the female reaches puberty, that is 14 to 15 years of age. Okay, and during each menstrual cycle, only one of the primordial follicles starts growing to form the Graafian follicle. So this change will happen every month. Every month, it is cyclic. Every monthly, one primordial out of these many primordial follicles, one will develop into Graafian follicle. So this change in the ovary will happen every month. Okay, I'll repeat myself again. The development of this primordial follicle into the mature Graafian follicle. These are follicle is having inside them the egg. Okay, so this starts at the time of puberty. Before puberty, these changes in the ovary of any female, of any girl, will not take place. These changes will start when the girl reaches puberty. After puberty, every month this process will happen. In each cycle, in every month, the primordial follicle, only one of it, primordial say primary mein, and then only one of the primary follicle, primary, develops into the mature Graafian follicle. So there are two ovaries, so every month from one month from one ovary, another month from another, so this alternate will happen. Okay, fine. So this develops into the secondary follicle, having the secondary oocyte, and then this further develops into Graafian follicle. I told you some of the labelings over here. And when the egg is ready, the egg is released, ovum is released, process known as ovulation. Then this, what happens to this follicle? It forms some, develops into something known as corpus luteum. It secretes an hormone known as progesterone. We will see the role of progesterone in the next week. Clear? Okay. So some details to oogenesis that now I want to go step by step into details of it. So we began with the oogonia, that is the primordial follicle, or you can also call it as the oogonium. Okay. So this is diploid in nature. This is happening before birth. Okay, when the female is not born. Fine. That is many primordial follicles will be formed, or many oogonia will be formed. That is the mother cell, female mother cells. Okay. Now from this, the daughter cells, the daughter cells will be formed. Okay. So first there will be mitotic division, obviously to increase the number of the mother cells, just like in spermatogenesis we did. So in oogenesis there will be mitotic division. Many number of these mother cells will be formed, duplication will be formed. But now it will be known as primary oocyte, because the primordial follicle now has inside the primary egg. Now mitotic division finished. Now this mitotic division will be followed by meiotic division. It will be followed by meiotic division, I told you, for making more number of haploid egg cells. But what happens in oogenesis, which is very different from spermatogenesis, that only first step of meiotic division will take place. That is, only prophase of meiotic division will take place, and thus the division will stop. Stop as in the division will pause. It will not stop, it will pause for some time. Okay, this is happening what? Before birth. So before birth, up till here, the eggs are, or the follicles are ready. Clear? Okay. the mother cell, that is the oogonia or the oogonium. Oogonium, we are considering one mother cell. They undergo multiple mitotic division and they form many primary oocyte. Now this primary oocyte, what is our step? Primary oocyte develops into secondary oocyte, right? But this will happen when? After puberty, as I told you. So from birth, so this happened before birth in the embryo. Okay, inside the womb, the baby, female baby is developing. So all these changes are taking place over there. Now, once the female is born, till puberty, this will remain as it is. Okay, the primary oocyte will pause, will be arrested, kind of. It will just divide till meiosis 1 when it is in the embryo, and it will pause. Okay, then the female is born. Till the time of puberty, no changes will happen. This primary oocyte at meiotic 1, prophase meiotic 1 is as it is. No changes happening. Okay, from the birth till the puberty. Now, once the puberty hits, okay, once the female reaches puberty, this continues. The division will now continue. Okay, continue. What type of division will continue? Meiotic division पे pause हुआ था, so it will continue. So after prophase 1, then you have metaphase, anaphase, telophase, the whole set of meiosis 1, and then meiosis 2. So completion of meiosis 1 and then meiosis 2 will take place here. Okay, and I told you meiosis 2, that is equational division. Eggs, 4 haploid eggs will not be formed. You will have one egg, one polar body will be formed. So similarly, you will have these polar body which will be formed and an egg cell which will be formed. Because why do we call it as polar body? Basically, see what happens in the meiotic, what is the outcome of the meiotic division? The parent cells divides into 4 daughter cells which are haploid. Yes, N. So here oogenesis, the final product is this only, but the division takes, unequal division takes place. What takes place? Unequal division takes place. So one of the cell is bigger as compared to the rest of the cells. This cell is having more cytoplasm, more nutrients, okay, more fluid in it, whereas the other cells which are formed as a result of unequal mitotic division, they are very small, so they further never become an egg. They will never become an egg. So then polar bodies are formed. Then we don't call them as egg, we call them as polar body. Okay, and the egg, out of these 4, the one who is bigger in size, okay, we call it as secondary oocyte. That is the actual egg cell. Now again, there is a catch over here. This secondary oocyte, okay, is now ready to be fertilized. Okay, matlab, the sperm can come and fertilize this egg and zygote can be formed. This egg is released from the ovary. We just saw the process of ovulation. Okay, but now this secondary oocyte again is arrested at meiosis 2. Meiosis 2 का metaphase पे. The remaining 3 phases, that is anaphase, telophase, so the remaining 2 phase, the prophase, metaphase has been done. Anaphase and telophase will be carried out after sperm entry. Okay. So this egg is released, mature ovum is released every month after puberty. If fertilization takes place, if the sperm enters, then the remaining meiosis 2 anaphase telophase will be completed. Okay, the division will take place, it will be completed, and then the sperm will gain entry and diploid condition will be formed. Okay, so meiosis 2 has ended and the cell is grown and fertilized. Egg has Fertilization. If no fertilization, if there is no sperm, then this egg will destroy itself. It will degenerate. That is what we will see in the menstrual cycle in the next video. Okay. So, then just giving you a detailed look at how the germ cells develops into a mature ovum, egg cell contained in this follicle. So what are the different layers of cells? Okay. Okay. So let's just see the layers of the cell that are contained um, that are surrounding this egg. So you begin with this, okay, the germ cells. So you have these small primordial follicles, and then you have the lining cells, okay, pregranulosa cells. So as and when they develop into the primordial follicle, so this egg will start surrounding them. Will start having granulosa cells surrounded to them. This primordial then develops into the primary follicle that we just saw. Okay, primary follicle, and inside is the primary oocyte. Okay, this is all hormone independent. So you can see over here, gonadotropin independent means they do not require any hormone, female reproductive hormones to do this. So this will happen naturally. But when the primary oocyte surrounded by the primary, contained in the primary follicle, the growth that will take place, that will obviously be the hormones dependent, gonadotropin dependent. So all the follicle stimulating hormone, one of the hormone that comes under gonadotropin is FSH, follicle stimulating hormone. Then also you have luteinizing hormone, estrogen hormone, okay, all these. So under this effect of the hormones, generally now you just need to know, under the effect of the hormone, the follicles will grow. This primary follicle now develops into secondary follicle. Now you see more number of granulosa cells are getting added up. Yes or no? You can see the egg which is there in the center with the nucleus, and then you see these blue cells, more number of granulosa cells are getting added. This secondary oocyte, this primary oocyte with the secondary the secondary follicle now develops into further stage. Now you can see slowly and steadily these cavities are getting formed. This cavity is fluid filled. This fluid is there inside this. Obviously, it is having nutrition in it, which will be supplied to this egg for its growth and maturation. Okay, you can see these linings over here. These are known as theca cells. These are known as theca cells. Now, when this this develops into the final mature follicle, so primary follicle to secondary follicle and mature follicle, which is known as Graafian follicle, okay, at the end, which then facilitates the release of the mature secondary oocyte, okay, which results into formation of release of the secondary oocyte. What you can see over here is the cavity grows bigger slowly and steadily, and then the egg also is slowly and steadily, getting bigger in size, and when it is ready, it is released. Now, what is the role of these granulosa cells and theca cells? This theca cell basically is the protective covering which is outside the surrounding, which is the outermost layer and which is surrounding the entire follicle. Okay. Yes. So the theca cell act as a protective covering. Now theca, there are two layers again, internal lining and outer lining. So you have inner theca cells and exterior, externa. So interna and externa. Okay, basically the inner one is especially involved in production of the hormone estrogen. Okay, we will see the role of estrogen again in the next video. So estrogen hormone is produced. Okay, also granulosa cell will support in hormone production. Yes, so the externa, the theca in general is giving protective covering, protective layer to the whole follicle. Okay, they are protective in nature. Along with that, the inner lining produces estrogen hormone, helps in production of the estrogen hormone. Granulosa cell assist. So together, these theca cells and the granulosa cell help in protection and production of hormone for the development of the oocyte. Okay, so this is how the development of the mature ovarian follicle will take place. Once it is mature, it looks like this. Okay, Graafian follicle, and then this egg can be released. Okay, so you have a bigger look and very detailed and clear look of the different layers of cell. So you have the basement membrane, you have this fluid filled cavity, nutrient rich. Okay, then again you have the cytoplasm of the egg. This is the secondary oocyte, nucleus of the secondary oocyte, theca externa, and then theca interna. This is mostly for protection. Okay, this is mostly for helping in production of the hormone, that is estrogen. Granulosa cells will also assist in more or less production of the hormone. Okay, they will support production of the hormone. So they are surrounded, you can see in layers, concentric layers. Now there's something known as zona pellucida. These are not cellular layer. This is just a layer which is non-cellular nature, means it is not made up of cells. It is secreted by the vitelline membrane of this secondary oocyte. Now we will see the function of zona pellucida and corona radiata when we do fertilization. Okay, when the sperm enters the egg, it is trying to enter the egg. So what is the role, function of these layers, zona pellucida, corona radiata? These two will cover in that video. Rest we have all covered. So this is how the picture will look like. Sorry, this is not primary oocyte, this is secondary oocyte. Okay, then this is ready. When it is ready, then this will be released. Okay, so mature Graafian follicle. So just a comparison between the spermatogenesis and oogenesis. So spermatogenesis we saw when at the time of birth you have the male germ cell. Okay. During the time of puberty, this will undergo now gamete formation. That is this mother cell, the germ cell will now start cell division. Obviously, when we are talking about gametes, meiotic division will take place. First, mitosis to increase the number of the mother cell. Okay, here the germ cell will be increased in number by mitotic division. Then, when many germ cells are formed, then they will individually undergo meiosis division. Here, meiosis is very simple. Primary spermatocyte, first meiotic division, reductional division, and then equational division, meiosis 2. So finally, the mother cell resulted into 4 haploid sperm cells. Okay, they are known as spermatids. When they gain the function of motility or mobility, they become spermatozoa or the mature sperm cells. This is clear. This is discussed in detail in the previous video. In this video, we covered oogenesis. So again, we'll start with the mother cell, the germ cell. They will undergo mitotic division to increase the number of the germ cells. Now they will be known as not germ cell, but they will be known as primary oocyte in primary follicle, contained in primary follicle. Now meiosis 1 will take place. Okay, first step of the gamete formation, and during the so this is till birth, and they will arrest at prophase 1. Meiosis will stop or pause at prophase 1. So up till puberty, nothing will happen, no changes. Once puberty start, this will continue. So you can see meiotic division will continue. 2 cells will be formed. One will be the bigger cell, one will be the smaller cell, and the smaller cell will be known as mitotic. It will be known as polar body. Okay, it's like this here only. This cell resulted into 2 cell, this cell resulted into 2 cell. Okay, so here also this one divided into two, the smaller one, the smaller portion of the cytoplasm over here resulted into something known as polar body. This will not become any egg cell, this will degenerate on its own later on. This will then further undergo the completion of the division. Again there will be a division taking place, so more polar bodies will be okay, so this will again undergo division and this will also undergo division, yes or no? So you have one cell dividing into two cell, this will undergo again division and this will undergo again division. Let's say this was the bigger cell, so this germ cell got divided into one bigger cell and the another smaller cell. Smaller cell is the polar body, bigger cell is the secondary oocyte. So individually now they will undergo a meiotic division. To complete a meiotic division, this polar body will result into again two polar bodies only, because it is a polar body, it is not having any egg in it. So it will result into two polar body. This will also again undergo division. This will result into one bigger cell and again a smaller cell. So this is another polar body. So total how many polar body are formed? Three polar bodies are formed. Okay, and this is the final secondary oocyte. Up till here we will call it as secondary oocyte only. This is now ready and it can be ovulated. Okay, this ovum is ready, it can be released in the process of ovulation. So then this egg can be fertilized with the sperm and then it can become zygote. These polar bodies are of no use. They finally degenerate or destroy themselves after a certain period of. Okay, so very important to understand this process. Go through this uh, again and again, revise it. If you have any doubt, you can ask me in the live class. So that's all for this video. You can summarize. I have included a snippet of the textbook. So just you can go through it in words. Things have been summarized. So this I have included for you. You can pause and read it for your clarity. And that's all. In the next video, we will be discussing menstrual cycle. So what happens to the secondary oocyte if it is not fertilized? In this video, we were stressing, okay, fertilization happens, zygote will form. But what if the egg does not fertilizes? There is no intercourse happening. There is no sperm available. What happens to the egg? It is released. Where does the egg goes? So that we will see in the next video, that is menstrual cycle. So thank you all. Revise everything. If you have any doubt, come up with a doubt in the live class. Take care. See you. Bye bye in the next video.